Hello, this is Nairi from Fly Lots of Birds, and today I'm going to share with you whether you should share with other people whether your child's adopted or not, and whether that changes over time. So recently we have had some new neighbours. I've got two teenage boys that are both adopted, and I've also got adult birth children. So these neighbours moved in. The first thing to say about it is my boys were super inquisitive but also quite edgy about it. So just as this family were moving in, they were looking out the window several times. They were asking loads of questions about these neighbours, of which we did not know the answers, and they were keeping a very tight eye on who these new neighbours were going to be. So already the anxiety levels are super high. We went out to see the neighbours. My husband went first, had a little chat with them, came back, gave me the lowdown, which was very kind of him because he gave me a few hints of things perhaps not to ask and not to say. And one of the first things I said was, because at this point, okay, my grandchildren are spilling out onto the driveway, and so are my boys spilling out onto the driveway with go-karts and cars and stuff like that. So one of the first things I say was, when it goes quiet and there's no one around that can maybe overhear, in a sense that I don't want my boys to think I'm talking behind their back, I say that there are adopted sons. And the other neighbour that was stood there kind of raised her eyebrows, and well, I know that look. That look is, ooh, did you need to? Should you have shared? And this is, you know, what I'm sharing with you is why my decision is around that. So the first thing to say about it is Tim and I are mid-50s now. So I'm 54, my husband's 56, so we're clearly grandparent age. We could have just about had children at the age that we would have had them. For the boys are now 13 and 14. It's more unusual, shall we say. The other thing that mixes it all up a little bit is the fact that we do have grandchildren, and the other thing that mixes it up is we have 5 adult children, and the youngest is mid-20s. So it doesn't really take much to work out that something is different about our family. Is that a problem? No, not a problem. But people stop making their own ideas up about why that might be and how that might be. I would rather they didn't do that. So my perspective is, I say it straight, I say there are adopted sons, and I say, you know, that's why there's a huge gap between these children and our adult children. And I also hint as well that we do have our difficulties and issues, because there are neighbours. Spent any time on my channel, you will know that particularly our youngest son has violent outbursts. There's no other word for it. That's what it is. And when he goes, and I'm pretty sure all the neighbourhood can hear him. Now, fortunately for us, we're living on a kind of cul-de-sac where there are a lot of elderly people, okay? Older than we are, let's put it that way. But still, when he blows, and he'll go out the front and he'll be screaming and shouting. Because this family that have moved in are not elderly, they're just a family, they will probably hear it and they will probably see it. Now, I don't share it because I feel guilty about him doing that. I don't share it because I want them to have a better opinion of us than what they should have. I simply share it because I feel like it stops the questions. It stops them making their own ideas and stories up about what's going on in our house, and actually they will realise what's going on when those things happen. So that's my reasoning for sharing. I'm not ashamed that the boys are adopted. The boys are not ashamed they're adopted. They don't often want their friends to know. I've shared before, because they don't want to be seen as different, but they're not ashamed of being adopted. In fact, on many occasions they use it to their advantage. They have done that many times before. Yes, they've used it to their advantage. So they're not ashamed of it. They wouldn't be ashamed of me sharing it. It's just that when it comes to their friends, they probably wouldn't want that to happen. So that was my reasoning behind it. The other side of this, I'm going to say, is sometimes it isn't appropriate to share it. So I guess in short, there are times when it doesn't feel right to share that your child's adopted. It might be that, you know, they are younger and you don't feel the need to share with friends and family. Obviously your close family are going to know anyway, but you may feel that the time isn't right, you're not ready to share, and because you're not ready to share with the child, you're not ready to share with other people yet. It may be that you're in a situation where someone who's asking is not asking appropriate questions around it, and you just feel like their motivation for wanting to know isn't right, so you don't feel like it's right to share. It may be that your child is going through a particular vulnerable point at the time, and they're very restless about their identity, and they're not too settled about things, and therefore sharing it at that time isn't right either. So there are times when you might hold back, and there might be times when you just think it's not right. And obviously, because our boys have known from the beginning, it's no surprise to them, there's no shock to them, whereas you may be in a situation where you have to share it for the first time with your child and not quite know how to approach it, not know perhaps what you want to say, what you want to include and what you want to leave out, because depending on your child's age, depends on what you might want to share. So yeah, there are times, but for me, I'm just sharing my own experience of how I feel it needs to go for our family. And I think because at times it is obvious with the boys that there are developmental issues, there are issues caused by child trauma, that it's more, I feel like, kind to them in a way for people to understand just that there might be a history there might be things they've gone through, and I feel like then I'm not explaining myself, but I also feel like they don't have to explain themselves either. So that's just a little bit of my experience. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you're interested in the channel, please subscribe. If you're interested in channel membership, please check out what those membership levels are, what you get for them, and check out my channel. And I'll see you on Fly Little Birds. Thank you.